Welcome to the Museum of Bad Art Curator Talk, MOBA 101, an introduction to the Museum of Bad Art. I am Michael Frank, Curator-in-Chief of the Museum of Bad Art. I'm speaking to you from a secure location high in the Museum of Bad Art Ivory Tower. This will be the first of a series of curator talks about the MOBA collection. It will be an overview of the entire collection. In subsequent talks, we will dive deeper to explore various themes. To make a long story as short as possible, in 1993, Scott Wilson, an antique dealer, found a painting in an ornate frame in a pile of trash on the side of the road. He thought he'd be able to sell the frame and assumed he would throw the painting away. On the way home, he visited his friends Jerry Riley and Mary Jackson and showed them what he found. They convinced him the painting was too precious to discard. They invited friends to find similar pieces, mounted the art in Jerry and Mary's basement, and officially opened the Museum of Bad Art. The painting that Scott Wilson found, the seed that became the MOBA collection, was Lucy in the Field with Flowers. The motion, the chair, the sway of her breast, the subtle hues of the sky, the expression on her face, every detail cries out, masterpiece. Almost immediately, MOBA enjoyed worldwide publicity and visitors started showing up at Jerry and Mary's house. They were ahead of their time and organized what are now called pop-up galleries at various locations, such as a bowling alley, a campground, a gym, and a car wash. Of course, there were no watercolors included in that show. It was soon apparent that the public interest in the museum was outgrowing what Jerry and Mary wanted to see in their basement. So they secured a gallery space in the basement of a local movie theater. The Dedham Community Theater became MOBA's permanent home for 15 years. That space was infamous for the fact that it was adjacent to and separated only by a barrier rather than a proper door from the men's room, allowing everyone to appreciate the sounds and smells of the facility. In 2000, Scott, Jerry, and Mary decided to move on to other pursuits, and Louise Riley Sacco, who is Jerry's sister, and I have kept the museum going since then. It's hard to believe, but this is our 20th year. 12 years ago, we moved across town to the basement of another historic theater, the Somerville Theater. Last year, the theater management decided they had other uses for the space more important than hosting a world-renowned cultural institution, so we were forced to close that gallery. MOBA was once again ahead of the curve because now all the other major museums in the world have followed our lead and chosen to close their doors to the public. We have sent traveling exhibits on the road. There have been a number of shows outside Boston, including New York City, Ottawa, Taiwan, and most recently, a 3-month residency at the Tokyo Dome. We hope to have exciting news in the not-too-distant future about where people can visit the collection in Boston and beyond. Like every other major museum, we can only exhibit a small fraction of the collection at any one time. We have almost 500 pieces now, many of which have been in deep storage for decades. Thanks to modern technology, we can now share the images with the public. As Curator-in-Chief, it is my awesome responsibility to find and accept donations of art for the collection. Before a piece is accepted, I must be convinced that it was one that was created in a sincere attempt to make an artistic statement, but in which something has gone horribly wrong, either in the execution or the original concept. Sometimes poor technique results in a compelling image. More interesting are the pieces that show some technical prowess, but questionable decision-making along the way. After I find or accept a piece, before sharing it with the public, I interpretate it to help museum visitors understand what they are looking at. The interpretations, along with information about the provenance of the work, are always posted in our galleries. Unfortunately, that information is not seen by many people who see the collection only by looking at our Facebook or Instagram posts. I suggest you spend the time to scroll down to read the interpretations. They will enhance your visit and maybe help you appreciate the art. Or maybe not. The nice thing about sharing the art on Facebook is that everyone is free to voice their own reaction, opinion, or interpretation. So let's look at the art. I have found it useful to divide the collection into smaller collections. In this talk, we will look at some examples from the various collections. We can explore each of them more extensively in future talks. Bad art is difficult to define, but like pornography, I know it when I see it. Please do not infer that I claim to be expert about pornography. To avoid confusion, I would like to point out from the start some kinds of work we do not collect. There are factories in Mexico that turn out thousands of these paintings on velvet every year. They can be fun, but really more object of kitsch than art. So this Crying Elvis is officially not in the collection. But we do have Pablo Presley, a refreshing multicultural treatment of one of the most beloved icons of the 20th century. We also have Elvis descending a staircase. Employing materials often associated with kitsch, the artist presents a variation on a theme by Marcel Duchamp, reflecting the steady decline of an American legend. We also do not collect paint by numbers. This is more like wall decoration than art. I call this schlock impressionism because, according to the advertising copy, the textured pieces give the viewer the impression they are viewing an original painting. This is an interesting image, but I'm pretty sure that it was created for the tourist market in Tijuana or some other city in Mexico, so it's not really appropriate for our collection. Now, this is a painting that I bought in a tourist market in my first visit to Havana. I think that the image is compelling enough that I decided to break my own rule and accept it into the collection. This is Mujeres y Puros Hermosos, a celebration of the beautiful women and cigars of Cuba. We also do not collect kitschy arts and crafts projects or craft kits. Now, this painting, Mask of Fear by Paul Klee, is not in our collection, but it's in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. I don't know what they paid for it, but I do know that when paintings by Paul Klee come up for auction, they regularly sell for upwards of $4 or $5 million, way beyond our budget. We do, however, have an equally vexing image in our collection, The Departure. The artist makes use of clever asymmetry to explore the inner conflict of leaving home. This is a very familiar image to many people. Johann Vermeer was a Dutch Baroque period painter who specialized in domestic interior scenes. Only about 36 of his paintings survive. In 2004, one of his paintings sold at auction for $40 million. This is also way beyond our budget. But we do have, apparently fond of the domestic worker in Vermeer's 17th century painting, the artist chose to brighten her austere work environment with a lovely bouquet of flowers. Auguste Renoir made this trio of paintings in 1883. Dance at Bougival, Dance in the Country, and Dance in the City. Dance at Bougival is here in Boston at the Museum of Fine Arts, and the other two are in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. We have none of them in our collection. We do have Bailando. The artist celebrates the joy of social dancing in this delightful depiction of a Mexican couple. We also have Blue Tango, where we see a stylishly handsome couple mid-step as they glide across the floor, cheek to cheek. We will dive deeper into the collections in future curator talks, but now I'd like to share some examples from each. This painting belongs in the MOBA Zoo. Let's look at a few more paintings from that collection. It is interesting to ponder the fate of the owner of the rucksack next to the Bengal tiger standing in shallow water. There are other paintings of tigers, lions, and other wild beasts in the MOBA Zoo. Ahead of the curve once again, we anticipated the public's interest in big cats. Knowing his species does not swim, a lone giraffe stays very close to the beach as he walks gingerly in a rough sea. Perhaps he has strayed so far from his normal grassy savanna habitat in a desperate search for relief from the noxious yellow cloud that hovers incessantly around his head. A centaur and a motorcyclist race on a beach to determine how much progress has been made since the Greek gods reigned. In addition to still lifes and landscapes, this collection also includes works with over-the-top imagery such as Easter Island. This is a panoramic view of the seldom visited women's section of Easter Island, a tiny, isolated Polynesian island famous for its ancient stone figures known as moai. Time and gravity have clearly taken their toll on this particular ancient statue. The artist offers a series of images of destruction in the distance as well as the foreground. Most disturbing, though, is the imminent decapitation of the cheery Pez dispenser horse. This is The Waterfall. Snow-capped peaks tower over this summer meadow featuring evergreens, wildflowers, and a waterfall of mysterious origin. It's hard to know where this water is coming from. Another name for this painting might be Gorilla Mountain. Check this out. Free from constraint and, apparently, the force of gravity, pink carnations stand independently tall, proud, and in full bloom. While there are many images of animals, landscapes, and still lifes, the large majority of the paintings we have portray people. We call them portraits. An attractive couple enjoy a private moment at the water's edge. The artist seems to be sharing his vision of a dystopian future in which fashion-conscious hipsters living with rising sea levels and widespread pollution wear his and her hazmat suits. Sad Baby is one of the classics in our collection. Lost puppy, no one to play with, nothing on TV. What sad fate has befallen this young beauty with the big red bow? Her life is so empty, she must conjure an imaginary shelf on which to lean. You can imagine our surprise when Sad Baby made a surprise appearance at the opening of the show in Taiwan. The Worried Man is larger than life. The painting itself is 4 feet by 3 feet, but you can see in addition to his interesting skin tone, he has hair made of piano wire. He also has eyebrows made from staples. When he is on display, many people try to alleviate their worries by writing them on little slips of paper and attaching them to his hair. Some of the things that people worry about are spiders, large bodies of water, and being late for work. Worried Man has been in storage for a while, so he doesn't even know about COVID-19. I'm sure if he did, he would be just worried sick. Since there are so many paintings of people, we found it useful to create some more specialized collections, such as doppelhangers. These are images of people that, intentionally or not, resemble famous people. Famous people such as...
There was a girl, there was a boy.
The Osmonds of Ogden, Utah are a talented show business family whose career was concurrent with the Jacksons from Gary, Indiana. Like Michael and Janet Jackson, Donnie and Marie Osmond emerged as the stars of the family. This is a publicity photo from their popular television variety show from the early 1970s. A fan painted this in homage. She wrote, "One need not sit on a dark night looking heavenward for the brightest stars. He has but to be in a darkened hall watching the greatest of the greats, the Osmonds." White-knuckled Bill Clinton is portrayed furtively glancing away from the viewer. The artist's rendition of the president's tie offers a clue into the source of his tension. Let me play that music one more time. This painting arrived at the MOBA Ivory Tower just yesterday. It is a formal yet relaxed portrait of two first families. So relaxed, it appears that President Bush has slept in his suit. The museum curatorial department did some research and found this photograph taken at the opening of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in 1991. The Carters, Fords, and Nixons do not appear in the painting, and we are hopeful that there is a companion piece out there someplace. The donors of the painting have agreed to scour the thrift stores in Virginia and Washington when they reopen. In spite of her unfortunate haircut, which was fashionable at the time, Liza Minnelli's remarkable stage presence at the peak of her career is evident in this portrait. The artist believed her inexperience with the paint and brush caused her to miss the mark, so she stored her painting in a damp garage for 27 years. What appears to be chest hair on the pop icon is actually mold. This leads us to everyone's favorite collection. Like every other museum, we have a large collection of pictures of naked people. Amedeo Modigliani was an Italian painter and sculptor who was friends with Picasso and the other artists working in Paris in the early 20th century. He was sickly and tended to abuse alcohol and drugs, leading to his death in 1920 when he was only 34 years old and penniless. His expressionist work was appreciated after his death. In 2015, one of his paintings sold at auction for $170 million. We have none of his work in the collection, but we do have Pauline Resting. The cares of the day slip away, and the first flush of sleep brings color to Pauline's innocent cheek. We believe that this work, along with many others in the collection, may have been affected by the artist's never having actually seen a naked woman. Here's another piece we could never afford. We do have a violent sneeze results in a wardrobe malfunction for a beautiful Asian woman. Loosely translated, the inscription reads, "Is that a katana in your kimono, or are you just happy to see me?" While they are outnumbered by the ladies, we do, of course, have a few naked guys in the collection as well. Can the swirling steam melt away the huge weight of George's corporate responsibilities? Sunday on the Pot with George is a fine example of what we call labor-intensive pointlessism. The image definitely looks clearer if you squint. Museums around the world are full of artwork created to uplift the mind to the spiritual dimension. MOBA is no exception. The organ master stares, transfixed by twin mysterious visions, the Neanderthal saint in the setting sun and the Gothic monk preceding out from the cathedral sanctum, each framed by a halo of organ pipes reminiscent of No. 2 pencils. Fetchingly attractive Saint Martha is depicted in recognition of the fact that, in the spiritual as well as the physical realm, a woman's work is never done. George Bellows was one of the Ashcan school of painters who painted scenes of daily life in New York City in the early 20th century. This painting depicts a particularly violent boxing match between heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey and his Argentinian challenger Luis Firpo. There were 11 knockdowns in the fight that lasted only 4 minutes. Here we see Dempsey being knocked through the ropes in the first round. The sports writers sitting at ringside pushed him back into the ring, and he won the fight by a knockout in the second round. There are videos of this fight on YouTube. This painting is on display at the Whitney Museum in New York City. They would not part with it, but we have. Point of impact. The artist uses faux high-tech medical imagery, what appears to be a death mask, and a violent image of pugilists in action to illustrate the inherent danger confronting all the faceless athletes who engage in the sweet science. Asymmetrical limbs and a flexible bat helped this all-star develop tremendous torque at the plate. The spectators gaze silently, transfixed. From the look on his face, we might infer that the mighty Casey has, in fact, struck out. The smallest MOBA collection is an assortment of paintings that focus on the window to the soul, the human eye, which includes paintings such as larger than life and unencumbered by eyelashes, a solitary green eye looms menacingly silent. While it is commonly recognized that eyes are portals to the soul, gazing into this one is disturbingly like staring down the barrel of a gun. No visit to a museum would be complete without exiting through the gift shop. Here you can find t-shirts, mugs, calendars, books, postcards, as well as the opportunity to order a print of almost any painting in the collection. You can get to the shop either by visiting the MOBA website, museumofbadart.org, and click on the shop button on the top right, or use this bit.ly address. If you do, we've learned the hard way that the address is case sensitive, capital MOBA and lowercase GIFTS. There are a few more ways to support MOBA. We have just received the first batch of these Lucy masks. They are not in the gift shop. If you'd like to get one, please send an email to moba@museumofbadart.org. The museum does not charge an entrance fee for our galleries, and we appreciate the support of our fans. If you would like to donate money, You can do that by visiting www.museumofbadart.org/donate. If you would like to donate a piece of art for our collection, send an email with a photo of the art to me at curator@museumofbadart.org. Thanks for your interest in the Museum of Bad Art. You can see the Curator Talks at the MOBA Curator channel on YouTube. And watch our Facebook page for announcements about future live Curator Talks.